Vladimir Putin were running against Joe Biden for president, who would you vote for?
For our country? That's a hard question. Probably Putin.
It is?
Yeah, I don't think Putin's as bad as people want to.
You would vote for Vladimir Putin?
I would. Over Biden? Hell yeah.
You would vote for Vladimir Putin for president of the United States?
Putin wants to go back to good morality. He doesn't allow.
This is my video update on this Monday afternoon, April the 8th. Let's talk about some news, and let's start things off with an update on the Crocus City Hall terrorist attack. And the FSB yesterday, they released interrogation videos with the terrorists basically saying that they were making a run for the border with Ukraine. And they said that once they crossed over the border into Ukraine, their handler, who goes by the name of Seyfulo, was going to pay them each 1 million rubles or 11,000 USD. Now, the interesting part is that the terrorists claim that Ukraine had cleared out a window, a pathway for them to cross over in the Sumy region, to cross over into Ukraine. And they even demined the area so that they can make their way into Ukraine. So if you believe these statements, if you buy into the statements made by these terrorists during the interrogations, then, in my opinion, that would mean that the state of Ukraine, or at least part of the state of Ukraine, played a role in these terrorist attacks. Because if it is indeed true that on the border, a war zone, an area that is mined, this area was going to be cleared out and demined, I would imagine that this would need some sort of help from the Ukraine military or Ukraine intel or some sort of part of the Ukrainian state in order to demine this area on the border and to create a pathway for the terrorists to enter Ukraine. That would be my guess. I can't imagine any individuals, just private citizens or whatever, anybody just walking up to the border and demining it so that terrorists can enter into Ukraine. ISIS-K demining this border with Russia so that ISIS-K can clear a pathway for the terrorists to enter into Ukraine. So if this is true, and this pathway was being created, and this area was demined, then in my opinion, that clearly points at some sort of Ukrainian state involvement in this terrorist attack. That's the way I read it. So Medvedev, he put up a post on Twitter X, and he takes it further than Ukraine involvement. He takes it much further than Ukraine involvement. Now, yesterday, I reported on a post from Medvedev, quite a lengthy post, where Medvedev claimed that France and Macron should be seen as accomplices in the terrorist attack in Moscow. That is what Medvedev posted yesterday on social media. And I talked about this in my video update from yesterday. Well, today, this is what Medvedev posted on Twitter X. Well, you respected leaders of the US and European countries, terrorists stating that they were promised 1 million rubles in Kiev and that to get there, they were to go through a gap in the Russian-Ukrainian border was not enough for you. So the terrorist attack was ordered by ISIS, right? The real employers are the Ukrainian Bandera bastards, your fosterlings, and the accomplices to this murder are all of you, Biden, Macron, Sunak, Schultz, and other henchmen. We won't forget that. Quite a statement from Medvedev, huh? It's like an abandoned building. Or maybe not an abandoned building. I don't know. Anyway, what a statement from Medvedev, huh? Biden, Macron, Sunak, Schultz, and other henchmen. We won't forget that. Once again, he uses the word accomplices. And in yesterday's statement, he says that there will be no hiding, no immunity, when he was referencing France and Macron. Anyway, that is Medvedev's post on Twitter X. Let's now talk about Stoltenberg. And Stoltenberg gave an interview to the BBC. And in this interview, Stoltenberg called on NATO member states to stand up to authoritarian powers. Who are the authoritarian powers, Mr. Stoltenberg? NATO member states to stand up to NATO member states? No, that's not what Stoltenberg meant with his statement. Stoltenberg is saying that the authoritarian powers that NATO must stand up to are Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea. And Stoltenberg told the BBC that these four countries are becoming increasingly aligned. Quote, China is propping up the Russian war economy, delivering key parts to the defense industry, and in return, Moscow is mortgaging its future to Beijing. Stoltenberg further claimed that Russia provides Iran and North Korea with technology in exchange for ammunition and military equipment. Exactly as I have been talking about in my last two videos. It's China's fault. China's the reason that Russia has suddenly turned things around in the conflict in Ukraine, if you believe that, and is now winning in Ukraine. It's because of China. China's supporting Russia and supplying Russia with washing machine chips and machine tools and shovels. Shovels, and what else is China supplying Russia with? That's right. China came to the rescue of Putin, and they turned things around for Russia. China's the leader of this gang of four, the new axis of evil. And because China is supporting Russia's war economy, that has allowed Russia to start supporting Iran and North Korea. You see how all of this goes? China supports Russia's war economy, and Russia's war economy provides war technology to Iran and North Korea. Stoltenberg. I don't know. Maybe it's time for NATO to open up a branch in Asia, in the Pacific, huh? Maybe it's time for Stoltenberg to expand the business, the NATO business. Oh boy. So let's now discuss What should we discuss now? How about Cameron? How about the UK Foreign Minister, Lord David Cameron? And he said yesterday that he will be making a trip to the United States, and he is going to go to the United States to meet with Antony Blinken, and then he is going to meet with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. And the reason Cameron is going to meet with Speaker Johnson is to pressure, that is what Cameron said, to pressure Mike Johnson into giving 61 billion to Ukraine and the Zelensky regime. The foreign minister of the UK will travel to the US and pressure an American Speaker of the House to give up US printed money or taxpayer money to the corrupt government of Ukraine so that this NATO proxy war can continue. Do I have that right? Is that how this is working? Man, that is effed up. That is effed up. And so Cameron, along with the foreign minister of France, Stephen Séjourné, they wrote an article for The Telegraph with the title, "The World is Safer for a Renewed Entente." And make no mistake about it, this article is not about the 120-year friendship between France and Britain. That is not what this article is about. This article is about starting a war with Russia. That is what this article is promoting. That is what this article is hinting at. That is what this article is talking up. France and the UK together in a war with Russia. The article lays it out. It says that under no circumstances must Russia win. Russia must be prevented from victory at all costs. And this article, it makes the case for further escalation in Ukraine and a UK-French involvement in the conflict in Ukraine. Boots on the ground, French boots on the ground and British boots on the ground in Ukraine. Now Macron, he is talking up once again the French military involvement in Ukraine. We've even got reports of how the involvement will unfold. French troops will most likely enter Ukraine through Romania, Moldova, and they will either go to the Odessa region or perhaps to the Dnieper in order to strengthen up Ukraine's defenses there. Or perhaps another alternative option is that French forces, about 20,000 of the French military, will also be stationed in the north. I just did a circle. They will be stationed in the north on the border with Belarus in order to free up Ukrainian forces on the border with Belarus so they can go to the front line, and in order for the French to prevent some sort of Russian Belarus incursion into Ukraine from that area. So UK, France, that's what's going on here. UK, France going up against Russia. And the first part of this plan that Cameron and Macron have cooked up is that the money, the 61 billion, from the United States to Ukraine has to be unlocked, has to be sent to the Zelensky regime. That's how all of this begins. This is how I see all of this unfolding. This is the escalation escalator, as how Cameron and Macron see everything playing out. The first step is Cameron going to the U.S., securing the 61 billion to the Zelensky regime. Once that 61 billion is secured and is going to the Zelensky regime, then the plan, in my opinion, is for Macron to green light the sending of French troops into Ukraine. I imagine that once the French troops go to Ukraine, which will not be a quick thing, it won't be all of a sudden. This will take time, but once the French troops start to enter Ukraine, then they will be annihilated by the Russian military, and that is when Macron will make his plea to the United Kingdom. We have 120 years of friendship. You guys have to come and help me out, and that is when Cameron will make his plea to the citizens of the UK. We need to help out France because they are in trouble facing off against the Russians. And once the UK and France are bogged down in Ukraine and facing annihilation from the Russian military, that is when Cameron and Macron hope. This is the big gamble. That is where they hope that the United States will step in and come to their rescue. That's the thinking that I believe is going through their teeny tiny brains. Reckless, risky, dangerous, crazy, absolutely. But they believe that if they can unlock the 61 billion, if they can unlock that money, then they can get the ball rolling on troops, French troops, then British troops. And if things go really bad, which they will, because Russia has said they will annihilate whatever NATO collective West forces enter Ukraine, then they are hoping that the United States will come to their rescue. And if the United States gets involved in Ukraine, then we've got World War III, nuclear, possibly facing nuclear annihilation. That's how crazy and risky this plan is from Macron and Cameron. But Macron and Cameron may actually believe that if they send troops into Ukraine, they may actually believe that Russia is going to back down and that Russia will show restraint. And for Macron, especially for Macron, that would be a huge victory if he can actually send French troops into Ukraine and Russia doesn't do anything, which I don't think is going to happen. I think that the message from Russia has been crystal clear. Any troops stepping foot in Ukraine, we're going to destroy them. But Macron and Cameron and the entire collective West, they've misread and misunderstood and underestimated Russia for 2 years now, for 10 years now. And I think they're misunderstanding Russia and Russia's red lines once again. But I think that's the gamble that Macron is taking up, that he'll send the troops into Ukraine, backed by the UK, and that will force Russia to do nothing and back down. And I imagine if you try to think like they do, if you try to think like Macron, which is an interesting task to undertake. If you try to think like Macron or Cameron, they may be saying, you know what, we can send our troops into Ukraine. Trust me, bro, Putin, he's going to back down. He's not going to do anything. He's going to be frightened at the very sight of the mighty French and British military. And once Putin backs down or does nothing, that's when his government begins to crumble. I could see them rationalizing this decision in that way. And if things go really, really bad, this is what they're telling each other. If things go really bad, don't worry, the United States will come to our rescue. Crazy stuff, man. But what else to expect from little Napoleon, Jupiter Macron, and David Cameron, the architect, the butcher of Libya? What else do you expect from these clowns? Anyway, let's let's wrap up the video there. Let's wrap it up there into a clown world. Today's clown world has to do with Spotify. And here is a tweet from Lord Bebo. Spotify's top 50 songs listened in Ukraine has the second place. Yes, I'm Russian. That is the name of the song. Yes, I'm Russian is second place on Spotify Ukraine. All you need to know about Ukraine and why nobody wants to fight anymore. Yeah, I agree with that analysis. If this song is indeed the number 2 song on Spotify in Ukraine, well then I think that tells you just about everything you need to know about the trajectory of the conflict in Ukraine, about how the mobilization will go, and it probably tells you everything you need to know as to why France and UK are trying to involve themselves, their militaries, in the conflict in Ukraine. Because without the collective West, and I believe Zelensky actually said this the other day, without the collective West, without the money, and without the military, Ukraine loses. The problem is that if France and the UK get involved in Project Ukraine, the outcome could be catastrophic for the entire world. And if the US does not come to the rescue of France and the UK, if they actually go ahead and enter the conflict, and if the US does not rescue them, well, you could be seeing the collapse of Macron and Cameron and his ilk. Anyway, I will end the video there, theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odysee, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter, X, and go to the Duran shop. Pick up some limited edition merchandise. The link is in the description box down below. Closing down last few days. Take care, everybody.